So I saw Thunderbolts a few nights ago and it was pretty good. It was a real return to form, which means that, unlike Brave New World, which I have a lengthy video essay deconstructing, they'll release in July, I have very little to say about Thunderbolts. But there's a joke in this movie that I want to dissect. Spoilers, but at the end of the movie, the team that has been referring to themselves as the Thunderbolts is introduced to the public by Valentina not as the Thunderbolts, but as the New Avengers. Then, the end credits scene reveals that the team is now being sued by Captain America for copyright infringement because you can't just call yourself the Avengers. That's already a superhero team, albeit one that has been disbanded for several years by the time of Thunderbolts. So I imagine the 90% of Doomsday will be spent on the legal case deciding if this new team can call themselves the Avengers or not, with She-Hulk representing Sam and Daredevil representing Bucky, and then at the end, Dr. Doom will show up and kill Red Guardian. That's my fucking called shot. People called their shot with Taskmaster, they were right, and I'm putting my money on Red Guardian dying in Doomsday. Anyway, the question is, does Sam have any legal standing to sue the New Avengers for copyright infringement? No, he does not, because this isn't a copyright violation, it's a trademark violation, which is not the same thing. Copyright is for written works, trademark is for things like an organization's name or their logo. So, the real question is, are the New Avengers committing trademark violation? Maybe. I'm not a lawyer and a lot of things about the Avengers as an organization are vague, but I think Sam might have a case. The New Avengers are clearly using the name Avengers, and at the end, they're even using the A logo. But for Sam to be able to sue them, that would require him to own the trademark for the Avengers, and it's not super clear if he does. Let's start at the beginning. The name Avengers first shows up chronologically in Captain Marvel as Carol Danvers' call sign, Avenger, but I don't think Carol really has any claim to the name Avengers because it's being used here as a name of an organization, not as the name of a specific person. Next, the name was used by Nick Fury as the name for the Avengers Initiative, the S.H.I.E.L.D. program to recruit superheroes. The superheroes recruited by S.H.I.E.L.D. fought by that name during the Battle of New York in 2012, but at that time weren't a formal organization and disbanded immediately after the battle. The team reformed in 2014 to deal with Hydra, and this is when the Avengers actually become the Avengers. They're explicitly referred to as a private organization. They have a headquarters, support staff, and the iconic A logo. So if the Avengers are an organization with a trademark name, this is when in-universe the trademark would be filed. Not when it was a secret program arranged by a spy agency, when it was a publicly known organization. The thing is, it's never directly stated how the Avengers are set up legally. Are they a 501c3, a fraternal order, a private military contractor? Who's to say? But I think it's fair to say that the trademark is either owned by Tony Stark, given the fact that he financed everything, or by the organization as a whole. The real question is, did Tony own the Avengers, or were the Avengers a non-profit with a board? Because in the latter case, then all of the assets owned by the Avengers would stick with the organization. Anyway, the Avengers disbanded in 2013 following the Battle of Earth because all of them either died, retired, or went to space, except for Spider-Man and Sam Wilson. Now, if the organization was owned by Tony, then now it's probably owned by Pepper Potts. It's possible that Pepper gave legal ownership over to Sam because he's the only longtime Avenger member left in the game, or maybe Pepper owns it and Sam is suing on her behalf. If the Avengers were a non-profit and thus not really owned by anyone, though, then the question is, does the non-profit still exist as a legal entity? The answer is, we don't fucking know, because these films are, for some reason, more concerned with action and character scenes than the specific legal details of how the Avengers filed their taxes. But if I were to make a guess, I would guess that the surviving Avengers members kept the organization legally running and kept ownership of what remained of the compound and of all their trademarks, under the assumption that the group would eventually need to come back fully. Hell, you could argue that, at the end of Shang-Chi, Hulk is consulting on the behalf of the Avengers, which still exists as an organization. They don't have an active team of superheroes, but they still have the corporate structure, is what I'm saying. If the Avengers do still exist as an organization, I could see the board members giving management of the organization over to Sam, so he could reestablish the team, which he stated he wanted to do at the end of Brave New World. So yeah, it's likely that Sam has legal grounds to sue the New Avengers. Except, hold on, did the Avengers own the trademark for the Avengers name? Because if the trademark is owned by the US government, then Valentina might be able to use the name for the CIA team. Ross stated that the Avengers were no longer a private organization during Civil War, but I don't actually think he meant we, the US government, are seizing ownership of your trademarks, like he was talking about regulating the team. But even before Civil War, the US government arguably owned the name Avengers because Nick Fury created the name while working for S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. imploded in 2014 before the real Avengers team was established because of, all the Nazis inside S.H.I.E.L.D. But it's reasonable to assume that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s assets were transferred to other government agencies, like the CIA, which is under Valentina's control. So Valentina might actually have a good argument that her team has a right to use the name Avengers. Not the logo, she has no claim to that, but the name, it's possible. But I think Sam will win the court case that, as a reminder, will make up the majority of Avengers Doomsday. Because trademarks have to be enforced. You need to send cease and desist letters or you lose the trademark. And the CIA allowed the Avengers to use their trademark for the name Avengers for 9 goddamn years without doing shit. They've lost the trademark at this point, and honestly, that's the real reason Sam's suing, because otherwise, he'd lose the name of the team Steve founded. Also, he's suing because none of the new Avengers were members of the old Avengers, and also 2/3 of them have tried to murder Avengers, so Sam probably doesn't like them very much. There's also that. But the real plot twist of this movie is going to be that Sam will win the court case, but he'll lose something more important. His name. He will lose the right to call himself Captain America, because the Army created that costume. The Army created the name. The Army continued using the name Captain America after Steve Rogers got frozen, and continued using it after he disappeared following the Battle of Earth. Sure, they're letting Sam use the name in return from working with the US military to do military operations in Mexico. Hey, what the fuck? Pause. Just remember that's how Brave New World began. That was weird. Give me 2 months to make a long-ass video about why that's weird. Anyway, the point is Thunderbolts was a good movie.